Greetings, everybody, for this celestial chatter for the week. What week is it? March 7th through 13th. While at the planetary level, there's only a couple of main aspects going on this week. If I were to leave out the lunar equation, which often I'm inclined to do because it moves so friggin' fast and makes aspects all the time. What the background that I chose for today is while the planets I sense might be holding their breath at the moment to see just what it is that we as humanity, and this image behind me is the cacophony of the variety of different types of people and beings here on planet Earth, all intermingled together, because that's the reality of life on planet Earth. It isn't anything to do with the separation, striation factors that humans try to implement upon everything else on the planet, including each other. The two main aspects for this week are, let's just do a quick look at the chart. One is Mars and Venus have both gone into Aquarius. They went into Aquarius yesterday. They're still traveling in conjunction, one right here, 1 degree of Aquarius. The other aspect that is going to transpire this week is going to be the sun catching up with Neptune here in Pisces. You notice I have two charts here because in order to move the chart, it automatically puts in that second chart. So I thought I'd just throw that secondary chart around the outside to begin with. So, you know, it's identical to the one in the middle. But just so that we can see, you know, this is Monday morning at 8 o'clock, which is tomorrow. And you see, we got the same planets playing the same game. And those are the two main aspects of this week. If I were to leave the moon out, because the moon essentially is going to go from here at 16 degrees of Taurus. Let's move the week forward and see what happens. As you can see, it jumps right ahead very quick. Just about to complete its Taurus thing here on Tuesday. Wednesday, it's going through Gemini. And by the way, from Wednesday through Sunday, the moon will be out of bounds. And that changes the inflections of just what it is we might discover about our feelings, about how we, it's the moon, how is our connection to home, to our parents, to the clan that we actually recognize as the foundation of where it is our being is enfolded or engulfed within. Anyway, that's Wednesday. And then we'll go here now Thursday. And you can kind of see it zips through because the moon is a quickie. So as it's going through Gemini, it's making aspects to, you know, our planets up here in Aquarius. And so it is done as it's made trines to all these Aquarius plans during Tuesday and Wednesday. And on Thursday, on Friday it's going into Cancer, which means that it's making aspects by trying to, it will be making aspects by trying to our Piscean things. It will also be opposing anything in Capricorn. The only thing up here is Pluto, and that will be on Sunday when it actually forms an opposition with that planet. Also in Cancer, it will be forming a square to Chiron, who's here in Aries. Sextile to Uranus, just, you know, regular run-of-the-mill things as the moon moves 12 and a half to 12 to 13 degrees a day, those aspects last for a couple of hours, maybe 3 hours. You could stretch it to 4 if you really wanted to, as it zips past those particular degrees. Anyway, those are the main aspects for this week. So this is going to be just a short presentation that I'm doing today. Let's take her back to Monday. Boom, 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 boom. Whoop, up, Sunday, Monday. Okay. What might be the significance of that continuing conjunction of Mars and Venus now that they've shifted into the Aquarian realm? Mars, action, energy. It just got passed up yesterday by the Venus finally. So you might want to consider that that overtaking of that Martian energy by the Venusian energy, meaning that Venus is now leading that duplicity, has more of a tendency to play the card of significant interaction potential that we might have with others as being something that is more to the forefront than that Martian energy that essentially has a drive and an initiative to conquer things or to inspire us to stand up for things that we really believe in a protective fashion, which I think you can kind of see is being played out quite dynamically in Ukraine at the present time, where the people there are basically fighting for their lives, fighting for an ideology that is not willing to go under the thumb of an autocratic control factor that has the primary function of demeaning their meaning, taking away their rights. And the rest of the world, us, are watching this unfold. And it's a challenge. The challenge is to recognize that those of us in the Western cultures or so-called free world are, we're living on a periphery that isn't embroiled seemingly in that experience that's going on there in Ukraine. And yet, are we really that separate from the experience that's going on there? Are we that disjointed from our fellow humans? Just some thoughts to think about. Venus and Mars together, masculine and feminine principles in the sign of Aquarius, which is the sign of the humanitarian capacity that we engage with one another in a group fashion. Are we really that separate? Just some things to ponder. For some, oh, absolutely. Separation is the name of the game. It is very unfortunate that we still have tyrannical leaders that exist on this planet, hell-bent on creating that level of separation, even though they might perceive it as we are trying to connect all of our parts, that somewhere along the way we're allowed to leave the unity that we seek. In the mind of Putin. After all, it is his war. I think the majority of Russians are likely not as much on board as he might hope. In some sense, that is terrifying because of the nature of what it is he has under his control. But I don't want to get off too far into that political thing. Let's stick with the astrology. So there the planets all are. They're out there holding their breath to see what we as human beings are going to do. That masculine and feminine principle coming into Aquarius right now is very much in play. I see one other aspect that's going to transpire this week. That is Mercury. Mercury will be moving from Aquarius into Pisces this week. I can't remember exactly what day it is. I wrote it down. Oh, today. Oh, actually, let's see, we're on March 7th. It will be on the 10th. So Wednesday, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, Thursday. Let's double check that. Here we go. On Thursday. Yeah. Another shift of energy to pay attention to. And this being that how we think, which has been going through the realm of Aquarius, creating opportunities for inspiring us to put together factors that one wouldn't normally think would go together. You know, there's a functionality to the Aquarian archetype that is seeking to discover things that don't easily fit into a particular box, but are more inclined to say, what would happen if A and B came together? Essentially, is there a humanitarian outwork that is potential when A and B get together? There's the humanitarian Aquarian 11th house friend potential energy at work. Well, when Mercury, our thinking and communicating processes, which has been going through that Aquarius, making sure that we do not forget to really pay attention to how effectively are we engaging with one another. Is there a cohesive community kind of experience in that matrix that is actually more critical than we might give it energy? That is Aquarius. Mercury, how we think and how we communicate, moving into Pisces. Vintage astrology, and what I'm talking about here is the astrology that has been handed down through us from millennia ago, created flavorings for what transpires when planets move through certain signs. This actually may be a part of the Middle Ages kind of astrology. I'm not exactly sure on that, but it gives the energy that when a particular planet moves into a particular sign, it's either going to be enhanced, you know, because it's being invited into a realm where the energy of what it represents and the energy of the particular sign actually get along really well together and inspire one another to grow and become bigger, to actually be a meaningful, cohesive kind of energy that actually allows things to more easily transpire. Well, Mercury, which rules Gemini and Virgo, is opposite Virgo when it's over here in Pisces. Mercury is said to be in its detriment, which means the planet is in the opposite sign from a sign that it rules, which in this case would be Virgo. So detriment is it's an energy that says that that particular planetary energy is not going to be able to do everything that it really intends to accomplish. And there's one other factor, and that is that when Mercury is in Pisces, it is said to be in its fall. And when a planet is in its fall, the description of it is akin to being at the bottom of a well, yelling out for assistance and likely not being heard. So while this Mercury, a relatively fast moving planet, is going through Pisces, I think we have to be cautious with exactly how we want to utilize the language in efforts to convey exactly what it is that we hope to convey. Part of the reason is that, this is in Pisces for all of us, and it is likely that some of the thought processes and things that we want to say are not going to be easily grasped by others who are attempting to do exactly the same kind of thing, with the same caveat of wondering, am I being understood? Here's where some of the magic or the mystic quality of Pisces, if one is capable of utilizing it, could come in quite handy. Some of the factors which Pisces represents have to do with illusion, getting lost in a tangled web of thought, of dream, or maybe more concretely, staring at the bottom of an increasingly emptying cup of alcohol, a drug. These are tools or vehicles often utilized by us, human beings, to escape. I manage a couple hundred acres of forest land that is in the family. And that was a very important call related to the management process that I'm involved in. Anyway, where might our thoughts wander while in the land of Pisces? The option is always there to wander over the deep end into an escape vehicle, whatever it happens to be. But there are other options as well. And right now, with the two ruling planets, both modern and traditional, Jupiter and Neptune, both being in Pisces and at the same time being energized or tickled by the sun, which last week moved over Jupiter, and this week will catch up with with Neptune, brings into the equation much more of a profound perspective of, what might be an alternative to reasons for attempting to seek escape mechanisms or illusion paths. What is it that we think we're escaping from? This is something worthy of some substantial meditation. I could probably paint out multiple scenarios of human existence here on planet Earth currently that are anything but easy to live with, that might inspire us to seek one of those escape mechanisms. And yet, at the same time, I think we need to recognize that if we proceed along that escapist trajectory, things here on planet Earth are never going to get any better, and likely just the opposite. What I'm suggesting is not going to be an easy path forward, but I think one that is vital for all of us. We all have friends who are attempting to take that escapist path. Do you think there might be opportunity to demonstrate to them alternatives? Because that is what it's going to take. And to steel ourselves, really be the metal of what it is that we can possibly be, to hold steady on a path toward a very different lifestyle here on planet Earth. These are things to think about. And if you find yourselves in camaraderie with others currently that you can trust, or could build trust with, continuing to play that Mercury card, and investigate, what are the deeper and more profound potential energies of how this life could be lived. That's the land of Pisces. It asks us, do you know where your spiritual focus might lead you on a different trajectory? When the sun catches up with Neptune, on Saturday this week, Neptune often can be looked at as the planet of imagination or illusion, if you want to take that particular path. But let's just stick with the imagination aspect of that. How flexible do you suppose creative imagination can be if we would be willing to get out of the way some of the, what should we call them, impressions, possibly uh, learned uh, processes that seem to be getting in the way of being actually creative with our imagination? There are opportunities there. Pisces is the sign of the mystic, the poet, the dreamer, and other things along that line of being. How visionary can you be? I'm going to stop the chart here because I'm not really going to go into all the lunar uh, ticklings that happened this week because the lunar is how we feel. And I just basically covered that it will be forming squares and trines and one opposition during this next week while out of bounds. And that out of bounds factor, I think, is the key, because when any planet is out of bounds, it's existing with an energy signature that doesn't like to be constrained or held in check in and being kept from investigating alternatives, which I think is what a lot of the rule structures that are set up often accomplish. So how we feel for most of this week, from Wednesday through Sunday, with that moon out of bounds, can be used as an incentive, particularly toward the latter part of the week when the moon moves into Cancer and begins to form trines to that Piscean archetypal energy field. First, the trine with Mercury will be accomplished, which trines are their opportunity to what a trine says is these are elements, water in this case, that are speaking to each other. And the water elements are about, intuition, that sensing capacity that we have to really feel not just something there in front of us, but to feel through or part of something that is transpiring right there, that we are engaged with. And that moon at the latter part of this week, when it goes into Cancer for the last couple of days of this week out of bounds, will be tickling Pisces in a very unique fashion to tune us into the potential deeper, incredibly profound realm of what Pisces represents. Have you had a conversation with God lately? Do you recognize your soul being as really a dynamic part of you and of each one of us? And are you willing to not only recognize that part within you, but within each other? We came here on Earth for very particular reasons at a very particular time, where what is required right now is why we are here. think on that for a little bit. What might you be holding back as your presence seeks to make its experience known in a fashion that is an invitation to come through your soul and interact with all of us? It's like a big giant puzzle, kind of like, if you made a puzzle of this image that's behind me right now, the reds all out there, they might be wanting to talk to each other, and the goldens, yes, and the blues, they're all seeking those levels of awareness with one another. But it is the seemingly cacophonous ensemble of all these colors intermixing with one another that is a representation of the true soul core of who we each are, seeking to interact with every other soul, to try and aim just a little bit higher, little deeper, find those places that are hidden within us, within each other, seeking recognition so that we can awaken more dynamically than I think we can even imagine. That soul being that not only we are, this planet is an extension of that, actually, or are we an extension of it? It's all soul. I think we're intertwined up and down the scale of spectrum with soul awareness that we don't often give accolades to. That's all I'm going to talk about this week. We'll see if there's a little bit more planetary activity and what they may discover and what we might be able to tune into this week if we are willing to, like the planets, listen and pay attention to what the heck is going on here on Earth, one of the planetary beings. Thank you. Have a good week.